Do it in state court here with District Attorney Owens, and we've got complete confidence in his team to handle this. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to the DA. I'll let him give a little statement, and then if y'all have questions, I'm happy to try to answer them at the end of that.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. I stand before you, District Attorney of Hinds County, and behind me are the dedicated man and woman who every day prosecute crimes, all types of crimes. And in our grand jury process, we have individuals and agencies that bring cases to us to present to our grand jury for a true bill or for a no bill. And over the last few months, we've had the Attorney General's office bring cases from us. We've had the Department of Revenue bring cases to our office. In this case, from the state auditors, we will do what we always do. We present those cases, and if a true bill is granted, we prosecute those cases to the fullest extent of the law. We have confidence in the evidence that was presented to us. We knew it was the right time to take this case to stop the things that were occurring in Mississippi, as the state auditor has said. And because of the ongoing investigation and now the ongoing prosecution, we are limited to what we can say and do. But know this, we will continue to hold those accountable that do these things to our county and to our state. And when we preach the principles of smart justice, these type of crimes hurt our communities just as much as the violent crimes. Now, we're an agency that works well with all state agencies and governmental bodies, and we will continue to do so to get this thing resolved. Thank you.
All right, questions?
Mr. White,
yes, sir.
You say that you wanted to get this wrapped up quickly, but the U.S. Attorney's Office is unhappy that they and the FBI were left out of this investigation. This involves all federal dollars. Is that correct? Why were they not involved in the investigation?
Well, I can tell you that what we thought was that the most important thing was to determine what happened, and then if we found that money was being taken, money was being stolen, then we put a stop to it quickly and efficiently. This is the state of Mississippi. State laws were broken. We identified the state laws that were broken, and we were happy to take this to District Attorney Owens to let him look at it. I'll say this too, there's a lot of work to be done here. This is a massive amount of money that we're talking about. So we're gonna continue working with our federal partners to make sure that we bring every investigative resource we can to bear. That's going to include the investigative resources of the FBI, the OIG, anyone else who feels that they need to get involved. We're gonna work with them, and we're gonna make sure that everybody's working together to get to the bottom of every penny that has been misspent or stolen.
But again, since this involves federal dollars, why were they not brought into the process early on during the investigation?
Sure. Well, before the case was actually presented to the grand jury, I let the U.S. Attorney Hirsch know that there's an open invitation for their office to work with our office on this case. So they're not being excluded. We look forward to them now or in the future being a part of this, because we realize the depth and magnitude of the investigation and the money misplaced.
What's your message to those who have been on the waiting list for TANF for all these years? There have been complaints about that at the legislature for a number of years. For those families that needed this safety net, what do you say to them given what you now know? Well,
we see this over and over in our investigations. Money is intended to go to a place that the legislature and the governor, by passing laws, decided was appropriate. And they decided that was going to help Mississippians. This is an example of money going to, or should have gone to, folks who needed it through a federal program, temporary assistance for needy families. To those families, you say, I'm incredibly sorry that this money did not go to your benefit as it should have, but you need to know that you have advocates who are standing up for you, and this is not going to be allowed anymore. It's stopping right now.
Mr. White is one of the largest.
Sorry, I had him right here. Sorry.
Mr. White, I know you said that more money could be uncovered with how much was stolen, but could you give us an estimate or what the previous state record was before, making this now the largest embezzlement in state history?
Sure, we had multiple cases in the past, and I'll tell you to go back and look at some of the press that came out of the state auditor's office. This is already, you can tell from the indictments, going into the millions of dollars. You can basically add up what's in the indictments, and you'll see that we're already looking at a number that's in excess of $2 million easily. So we're talking about a lot of money. I cannot give you an estimate on what it will be. What I can say is that we have looked at a narrow time frame, and so we're going to have to expand that time frame. We're going to have to expand the parts of the money that we're looking at, and we're going to get to the bottom of as much as we can. Yes, ma'am. Hit me.
How did this all unfold?
So I have not been given permission by the person who brought this to our attention to disclose that information. We protect whistleblowers in the state auditor's office. So what I would say is that this was brought to our attention several months ago when we started the investigation. If that person is comfortable coming forward and saying something about it, then I'm absolutely happy for them to do so. But I don't feel comfortable saying that because I've not been given that permission yet.
So it was a whistleblower?
This was an individual who reported it to the office, correct.
Are school voucher funds suggested to have been used in the alleged embezzlement?
No, everything that we have seen involves TANF funds. Yeah.
Are there any connections to lawmakers or anyone?
I don't want to comment on that. No.
Any other well-known, famous individuals?
I don't want to comment on that. You've seen the individuals listed in the press release. Those are the individuals that are involved that we're talking about right now.
In the press release. Indictments, you said, right? You said
we're continuing to investigate. So absolutely, there could be additional indictments. There could be additional money that's uncovered that was misspent or stolen. So absolutely, we're continuing to investigate. That would be true with any investigation.
In the press release, you alluded to the political connections of some of the defendants.
Sure.
Do you think that may have influenced them to maybe try thinking they could get away with something like this?
I have no idea and wouldn't speak to what's in their mind when they were doing this. What I can tell you is that we have proven through documents, through interviews, that they took money that didn't belong to them and that there was the necessary criminal intent there to go forward, and that's when we took the case to the district attorney.
What would you say is the impact on taxpayers and these organizations?
I would say the impact on taxpayers is they can look back and see that millions of dollars of taxpayer money is gone, and it has not gone to the things that it was intended to go to. The other impact for taxpayers is that has stopped now. So that has stopped today, and going forward, we're going to try to identify as much as we possibly can and make sure that this doesn't happen in the future.
If found guilty, what's the maximum penalty that they could face, or how would the state possibly get the money back?
We've got that for you on maximum penalties.
You want to talk about getting the money back as well?
Sure. So on getting the money back, look, we do demands at the end of any investigation, at the end of a process, and so we'll have that ultimately in a document that says this is the amount of money. Typically what those demands say is the individuals involved have a certain amount of time to pay that back. If they don't pay it back, we then forward it to folks who litigate it. So typically we forward it to the Attorney General's office to litigate that. That's all a process that has yet to unfold. So we'll get there at some point, but that's the normal process for getting the money back. We've got information for you on potential sentences.
And our colleague in the back of the comms team is passing out the indictments. For those of you who don't have a copy, just raise your hand. Miss Nancy New, potential prison time 0 to 170 years. Zachary New, prison time 0 to 170 years. These are multiple counts and indictments, as you will see. Gregory Smith, 0 to 15 years. Brett DiBiase, 0 to 10 years. And Ann McGrew, 0 to 25 years, if convicted on all counts.
You talked about adding up the amounts in there. I have one point of clarification. So each of the news have 2 indictments. One references a total of $2.15 million, and the other says in excess of $2 million. Are we looking at those as 2 separate amounts, or is that in excess of $2 million the same as what's referenced as 2.15?
I think that's the same as reference.
It's the same as reference.
It's the same as reference.
It's
Yeah.
2.5 million.
It's 2 different counts. So you're talking about 2 different instances. So it's not the same money. These are 2 different schemes that they've been done for.
A total of at least 4.15 million. Is that what we're looking
Yes.
at? Okay,
Yes.
that's what I wanted to clarify.
You mentioned New Summit School. Can you list all of the organizations that were specifically targeted? Because I know there's a number. MCEC, New Summit, New Learning.
What I can tell you is that that's going to come out as this case goes on. So what we know right now and what we're willing to say and can say is that there's a sub-grantee that received money, that's MCEC. The owners of MCEC also ran New Learning Incorporated. So that's the sub-grantee, MCEC, that receives the money. If there are other additional entities that are involved, that's going to have to come out later.
Okay.
So do you know if those schools are impacted in any way? Do you know if any of the programs that were funded somehow through these sub-grantees, MCEC, are going to be impacted?
So let me answer that a little more generically. We are engaging right now in an audit of DHS. That audit is also going to look at how sub-grantee money is spent. That audit is going to come out sometime in a couple of months or so. When that audit comes out, it is going to discuss some of the other entities that are involved, the other kinds of spending that may not necessarily be criminal, but would be inappropriate TANF spending. So all that work is being done right now, and it'll be made public as soon as we're done with it.
Well, I guess, are you aware, I mean, are the schools, I mean, I've tried to call, New Summit, phone doesn't answer right now. I mean, are you guys aware if those schools are open right now? Or
I don't know.
I
don't know.
The audit, is that a result of this investigation, or is that prior to this?
No, this was the routine audit that we do every single year. We're required in the state auditor's office to audit a certain amount of federal money that flows through Mississippi. So that was this audit that we're doing. It's called the single audit. We did it last year for DHS, and by the way, we identified several potential issues at DHS, particularly issues around monitoring sub-grantees. We did not identify this issue, but again, we restart those audits once they're done, and this is the routine audit that we do once a year.
Mr. White, can you elaborate a little bit? I know some was listed in the press release, how you caught on to this embezzlement, like what were they doing with this money to sneak it out from where it was supposed to go?
So the money is supposed to go to the benefit of TANF recipients or folks who were going to benefit from the TANF program generally. We got evidence from an individual who came forward and they told us some things that sounded that they raised red flags at the very least. So we ended up starting the investigation right then and there, and then we started to look at some of the allegations too through our normal audit process, and that's how we got here.
So were TANF recipients not getting benefits that they should have been receiving?
When we're talking about TANF money and talking about it being misspent, what I'm saying is that it doesn't go to the people who should be getting it, period.
I'm saying, so those people, recipients who had applied for it weren't getting.
Well, this is a grant, so a lot of these entities were not supposed to be engaged in direct services, but they still have to comply with the requirements of the TANF program, and they absolutely cannot convert anything to their personal benefit.
Part of the TANF, just
so part of the overall TANF program. I'm sorry, yeah, part of the overall TANF program.
How many families do you think were affected?
We couldn't say. That's a question for DHS.
A lot of this money was apportioned through block grants, correct?
I don't know if I would call it a block grant. I mean, it's a TANF grant that comes through and is awarded to sub-grantees.
Oh, enough.
Yeah, anything else? Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you.